Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And in front of me, I've got three button lock knives, three awesome button lock knives: the CJRB Pyrite, the CJRB Frack, the Kaiser Dogfish, and they're great. And it goes without saying that button lock knives have exploded in recent years. They've absolutely taken over. I reviewed far more button lock knives in 2023 than I ever expected to get my hands on, and this is actually just a small sample size. However, I think that if we're going to talk about knives like the Dogfish or the Frack, or especially the Pyrite, which a lot of people kind of keep as a button lock mainstay, we have to also talk about what came first, what preceded them. In my hands is what many consider to be the king of button lock knives. This is the ProTech Malibu, and it was lent to me by Don Farmer, who runs DNK Knives. And this isn't just any ProTech Malibu. No, this specific one is a 2023 Blade Show exclusive. And I'll show you just how cool this one is. Check that out. Purple aluminum handle scales, black pearl button, DLC coated blade, and it's considered a prototype. It's in MagnaCut by ProTech, and it's the Blade West 2023 prototype. So freaking cool. I really like this color. As someone that is naturally a fan of purple, this one sings to me in so many different ways. And yeah, I already did kind of show this one off in a video where I was unboxing other knives that were lent to me from DNK Knives, but it's so neat that I figured it deserved its own video. But here's the thing. If you're interested in the Malibu, they've been available. They sold out. They've been available. And you've probably had more than an opportunity to check these out. So for that reason, I wanted to do less of a review and more of my thoughts on whether or not the ProTech Malibu should be considered the king of button lock knives. It is certainly one of the OGs, if you will. It's certainly one of the forefathers of button lock knives. Now, the very first button lock knives, of course, were out the side automatic knives, which ProTech is very well known for making some of the best, if not the best, out the side autos. So when they started producing non-automatic out the side button lock knives, naturally people were very drawn to them. But the Malibu was not actually the very first button lock knife that was a non-automatic from ProTech. I've been told that that's actually the Mordax. However, what makes the Malibu so important in the history of things is the fact that for many people, this was the first button lock knife that they saw that they absolutely had to have. Even to this day, years later, these still sell out when they drop, and ProTech does an amazing job of offering options anywhere in the realm of $200 upwards of $400, depending upon how crazy you want to get. They have a custom shop which allows you to get some really cool configurations, especially like this one with the black pearl button. Now, initially when I saw this, I thought that may have been abalone, but that inlay is perfect on the button, and it's very classy, and it's very indicative of just the kind of work that ProTech does. Let's face it, when it comes to button lock knives, the market is officially dominated by Chinese manufacturers. And don't get me wrong, they're doing a great job like they did on the Kaiser Dogfish. I absolutely love this knife. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to the Malibu. The action is solid. There is, well, I wouldn't say that there's no button stick, but it's so light that you might as well not be there at all. Now, yes, it is aluminum, and yes, you can in fact get button lock knives in more premium materials, but the way that the finish is done is so attractive to me. It's very hard to anodize titanium and get this deep of a matte color. The problem that I have with titanium is that especially on colors like purple, that anode fades with the oils from your hands versus aluminum like this, which while it's still lightweight and strong and tough, the coloring on aluminum doesn't really fade with the touch of your hands. And so it gives you kind of this soft touch, light but strong material. It's one of the reasons why I love aluminum, and I think that it's actually highly underrated. There's many things that I appreciate about this knife. One of them being the fact that it is in fact a single-sided captive pivot. And even though there is no official detent, it doesn't stop the action on this from being fantastic. Many people see button lock knives as a fidget factor or a fidget toy, for adults. I don't necessarily. I think that they're attractive because they keep your fingers out of the cutting path of the blade when you go to deploy it. One hand easy open, one hand easy close. And while there are a ton of options out there to talk about when we're talking about button lock knives that won't break the bank, this one being a bit more expensive is actually one that many people would covet in their collection if they like button lock knives. Now, at first glance, this might look like a backspacer, but it's actually not. These two aluminum handle scales come together in a clamshell design to keep the blade protected when it's in your pocket. That's really nifty. And they also included a lanyard hole right there, which goes between the two scales so that you actually get a lanyard if you want, and it doesn't go through the handle scales, making both the show side and the clip side more attractive. That isn't to say that I absolutely love everything about this knife. For example, while one side has no screws at all, the other side has T6 body screws, which, let's be honest, for a knife made here in America in 2024, we really do deserve T8 body screws, especially if you're someone like me who likes to take the knives apart to maintenance them. Also, I would typically like to see some jimping on the spine of the blade, but for this example, the ProTech MagnaCut logos are kind of taking up that space regardless. Now, for many people who do primarily buy button lock knives to fidget with, that's fine. Spend your money on whatever you want. However, I would still prefer to have jimping there to have just a little bit better control. You can't necessarily do a full choke up on here, but you can kind of trigger pull right there. And of course, the pinch grip is going to do fine. But the question today is not whether or not you can hard use a ProTech Malibu. The question is it the Mac Daddy? Is it the Sultan of Slash? Is it the king of button lock knives? And I think that you actually do have to hand it the crown, because there's nothing out there that's quite as customizable as the ProTech Malibu, especially considering that there's just not a whole lot of American-made button locks out there that really even compete with the Mordax, or in this case, the Malibu. And while the Mordax may have come first, the Malibu has sold more, and you cannot deny that this is one slick knife, and it's one that many people covet in their collections. For me, I have no problem handing the crown to the ProTech Malibu. And while these might not be available at D&K Knives, I will go ahead and link to Don Farmer's website down below, because he does have an excellent selection of knives. Make sure to check him out. And by the way, guys, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, go ahead and click on one of the videos that pops up next.